Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I would ask, using video is absolutely essential here, but it does burden the communication links. I'm going to start the meeting in just a second, but I would ask that everybody mute. And one of the features, that way we won't be subject to any background noise or anything like that. So if everybody mutes, that'll help out a lot. And one of the easy things to remember, folks, is if you hit and hold the space bar, it will unmute you for the duration that you're holding it down. And when you release the space bar, it will put you back on mute. So that's helpful. Is everybody ready? Yes. Okay. Good evening. I call the May 28th, 2020 regular Des Moines City Council meeting to order. Will Councilmember Bangs please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
and
indivisible,
under God, with liberty
and justice for all.
There's quite a delay, Matt.
Thank you. Yes, there is. One moment, Council, I'm being asked, CDM local.
Which Wi-Fi did he join? Can you hover over the Wi-Fi?
I'm in the CDM admin Wi-Fi 24G. I don't have another option at this time. Council, and anybody else who's on board, there's the possibility that I may need to run us into a temporary recess while I move to another Wi-Fi. Otherwise, we could continue forward with this delay. That's what our tech manager is telling me. Would you like me to do it now before or let's get through the roll call, and then I'll break us just before we get into comments from the public. Is that okay with everybody?
Sure.
Fine with me, Mayor.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want the meeting to run smoothly. So, okay, at this time, it looks like all council members are present. So please let the record show that all council members are present. And I'd like to make the point that today we continue to work under the Governor's Open Public Meetings Act, which is set to expire at midnight on May 31st, 2020. At this time, we haven't heard if the proclamation will be extended or if we will be moving into phase 2 of the Governor Inslee's Washington phased approach. The staff continues to research what it is and isn't, and what's allowed under both phase 1 and phase 2. With the expiration of the proclamation, and we will notify the council if any changes are to be made. So at this point, before we go into correspondence and public comment, because my internet connection is quite weak and unstable, I'm going to ask that we connect and reconnect. So we are recessed right now. I show 5:07. I will try to be back on by 5:12 or 5:13. Okay.
Wi-Fi? Show available. Oh, the second one, that one. Yes, that's one in this room.
Can't connect.
Nope, but just stay connected. At least here it did.
I'm back to connection unstable. Let's see, what have I got?
You said you're connected.
Oh, it says it's more powerful.
Okay, yeah. Should be. It's in the ceiling panel right over there. So that's what
Okay.
you normally connect to.
So it looks like everybody, for obvious reasons. Correspondence.
Yes, Mayor, we have two email correspondences. I'm going to read these.
Is your microphone on?
You guys can hear me?
Doesn't seem like it's on. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I moved that. Okay.
Now I've got
Now
you.
you hear me. Okay. Yes, Mayor, we have two pieces of correspondence via email. One from Charles Doan, who wants to congratulate and thank us for the appearance of downtown and some other items in the city. And another one from Joan Bailey about marina parking. And then we have 5 pieces of written public comment, and they're all on the same topic, which is relative to Officer Boehmer and Doric. And they are from Ryan Jacobson, Krista Jacobson, Karen Adante, Natasha Orbeck, and Bonnie Taylor. And I'm admitting Jessica Vick into the meeting at this moment, and she wants to do verbal public comment. These pieces of correspondence, written public comment, will be, council's already received the full packet. I'll upload these to the website tomorrow so people can view them in their entirety online tomorrow morning. And Jessica is coming online, if she's not here already, for her verbal public comment. She's our only one who signed up to speak.
Okay, so when she comes on,
Jessica, are you there? I saw her.
I'm here.
Oh, there she
hi,
is.
hi, Jessica. Would you do me a favor and state your name and the city in which you live, and you'll have 3 minutes with which to speak.
Yes, my name is Jessica Vick and I live in Des Moines, Washington. And should I go ahead and start?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to voice my concerns regarding the situation involving Officer Michael Boehmer and his canine partner, Derek. The situation hits close to home for many Des Moines residents, as Officer Boehmer has been a prominent part of our community throughout his time at DMPD. It is not lost on me the value Derek brings to DMPD. However, Derek is not a piece of equipment. He's not a commodity. He's a living, breathing animal with a heart and soul. Anyone who has ever seen Derek and Officer Boehmer together instantly understands their bond and connection and dedication to each other. It's not uncommon for police dogs and their handlers to become family, and that is what Derek and Officer Boehmer are. I have been a faithful volunteer in our community for many years now through sports, PTA, farmers market, my church, and until recently with the Des Moines Police Foundation. I'm very aware of the effects good police officers can have on a community and the kind of officers that get to know citizens, invest and participate in communities, and allow people to see behind the curtain and see the human side of policing. The kind of police officer that Michael Boehmer is, and the kind of officer we should be seeing more of in the news. I've read Chief's statement, I've read the King County investigation findings and recommendations. I'm here tonight because despite those things, I feel the situation has been completely mishandled from top to bottom, and I'm asking for accountability. It seems the city leadership has decided to align with Chief and not give any thought to our Officer Bomber and Derek's well-being. If that is not the case, I'm asking for transparency between the city and the community on this issue, which we have not received. I'm very concerned about the well-being of Officer Bomber since being stripped of his canine duties and losing Dark 3 weeks ago today. I do not appreciate that every time I ask whether his well-being is being addressed, someone points me to the statement or the findings or ignores me altogether. No one has explained why Dark could not remain with Officer Bomber while a new officer was hired and placed in a kennel. After a week stay in a kennel, Dark was just handed over like you would a uniform or a gun. There was no transition period, no opportunity for resolution, no discussion, nothing. The Officer Bomber has been dragged through the mud, publicly humiliated, silenced, unable to speak to the situation or defend himself at all. Why can he not share his side of the story without the threat of further discipline? The situation will not just go away if you ignore it. It can't be brushed under the rug. You can't devalue it because you don't feel it's important enough or worth your time. Officer Bomber and Dark deserve more than that. They put their lives on the line for us every day. And to remove this dog who serves our community so well from the only family he's ever known is nothing less than tragic, no matter how talented and valuable he is to the police department. This is not a message I want to be a part of sending as a community, and I'm here tonight to ask that you look at the human side of this issue and reverse the decision to remove Dark from Officer Bomber. Dark deserves a home. Officer Bomber is his home.
Very much. Is there anyone else who is?
No, Mayor, that concludes public comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council, at our last meeting, Councilmember Buxton suggested that we create a video salute to our graduating seniors of 2020. And at this time, I'm going to ask each of you to say a few words of encouragement or congratulations. Our IT department will clip this portion of the video, and we can each have a copy to post as we see appropriate. This video will also go onto the city's website and the Waterland blog, Channel 21, and be put out on social media. Everybody will have up to 15 seconds, and these are intended to be brief and congratulatory comments. The order will be as follows. We're actually moving down the dais as if we were here. So we would have Deputy Mayor Mahoney, Councilmember Martinelli, Councilmember Bangs, Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Buxton, and then myself. If you could please follow the council member that is in front of you, this will help to ensure a smooth flow on the video. I hope this works. I'm going to be honest. Are there any questions before we get started on that? Seeing none, since you don't want to have to worry about muting or unmuting, either it might be a good idea to place your hand on the space bar. And let's give it a shot. So what I could suggest is we start with Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Hi, class of 2020. I just can't even understand what it'd be like in this time, but I just want to say congratulations and have a great future.
Councilmember Martinelli.
Hello, class of 2020. It is no small feat to go 13 years and to succeed and to earn that diploma. It's a big deal. You should be proud of yourself. Times are tough, but be proud.
Class of 2020, you're going through a lot. We all went through a lot. As we heard some speeches last night, you are the future, and you're going to do great things and hopefully be able to look back and say you and we have conquered all. And I thank your parents and I thank your family and friends.
Councilmember Nutting.
There we go. Congratulations, class of 2020. You're graduating in a very difficult time and very weird time for all of us. You will do well in the future. You are our future, and good luck to all of you.
Councilmember Harris?
So, class of 2020, this may not be the kind of excitement that you had in mind, but well done for succeeding under such challenging circumstances. Now go out and change the world. Cheers.
Class of 2020, congratulations. A lot of stuff went wrong at my wedding, and I always said I had the best stories. I feel like out of this entire century, you guys are going to have the best stories. So go Rams, go Eagles, go Pirates. Congratulations.
And I will follow on by, again, congratulating the class of 2020. Your parents, your teachers, your relatives and friends in your community are all very proud of you. Please don't let the difficulty of this time overshadow what is going to be a very bright future for you. We wish you all the best going forward. Okay, I think we've got it. Thank you, Council. I look forward to seeing the final version. There has been a suggestion to do another one of these to reach out to our seniors in the community, and Councilmember Buxton, who brought this idea forward, will bring this forward in a future meeting, and we will look at trying that again. Okay, now at this time, we will go forward to board and committee reports with Councilmember comments, and we will start that with Councilmember Bangs. Councilmember Bangs, you're muted at this time.
Oh, I thought I unmuted. Thank you. I attended Dollars for Scholars Scholarship Awards last night, along with you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor Mahoney, Councilmember Buxton, and several donors, and of course, families and graduates. There were 12 awards altogether, and it was held in the Activity Center parking lot, which was really a fantastic event. Now, that's the only report I have, but I have a comment I would like to read if you would indulge me. I'm compelled to take a moment to comment on current events in our state and country. Asian Americans are being harassed and physically assaulted related to the COVID pandemic. The suicide hotline has skyrocketed with calls from Asian Americans. African Americans, especially males, have been and continue to be treated differently from others in this country. The latest is George Floyd, who was arrested and senselessly killed for a nonviolent issue. And I could cite hundreds of other senseless cases. If we do not take note, reflect, recognize and act on the responsibility we each have for the safety and well-being of our fellow human beings, regardless of race, creed, culture, gender, etc., then what is happening in our country and close to home will never, ever end. I pray that there is true change in race relations in this country, and I, for one, have a responsibility to work to make that change. These horrific actions are unacceptable, reprehensible, and again, senseless. I hope that our council, our community, our state and nation realizes that not all is well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Nutting.
I don't have any board or committee reports, but I do want to comment on the consent agenda. I will be voting in favor of the Puget Sound Gateway Project, SR 71 and SR 509. I believe that this is right in line with the reason why the business park was so successful in getting businesses and the FAA. It just helps move people onto faster thoroughfares, quicker, and I will be voting for this item. And that concludes my remarks.
Thank you. Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Harris, you're muted, please.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
First, I want to echo Councilmember Bang's comments. Very well said. I have 2 children of color, and the notion that we're still dealing with this kind of stuff in 2020, it just breaks my heart. I have 2, I suppose, hopefully quick motions. The first is I was having lunch at the senior center yesterday and got my Eats voucher, and one of the residents came up to me and did something incredibly courageous. He called me out for not properly socially distancing. We live in a world where people are extremely reluctant to ever try to tell anyone else what to do, even on something as important as this. And that was a tremendous act of citizenship. He then went and got one of the employees at the senior center to tape off the patio tables outside so that they would be limited to 2 people per table. I mean, he really was an activist. And then he took the time to call me and tell me what he had done and chide me for my not being a good role model. If that wasn't enough, then he pitched me on the idea of that, okay, now that we have half as much space for the tables, the seniors had wanted for years 4 more patio tables. So I promised him, at the risk of being pandering, to request, I don't know if we need a formal motion, but they have wanted 4 more patio tables for years, and I feel that he deserves a reward for his citizenship. So what are the possibilities of getting them their 4 patio tables? Or do I need to make a formal motion on that?
Well, first of all, I definitely understand your angle, and I think the council isn't by practice in the position to authorize the spending of or even through motion to move something forward around these patio tables. I think the patio tables are something that could be considered, but that is really under the auspices of the city manager and the administration. That's the operational side of the house, and we're the policy side of the house. So at this point, there's a couple things that could be done. I'm hoping that we will get to committee meetings in the very near future. So we could make a motion to have that moved to municipal facilities to see what can be done to get more tables there. I mean, I think that's the best opportunity.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry?
That's fair enough. I basically just wanted to bring to light that he had the courage to speak up about something. And as we go to phase 2, it's really going to be dependent upon people saying, hey, 6 feet, and are you wearing a mask and so forth. So, I'm just trying to acknowledge that.
Okay, so I have a hand up with, you said Dan? And then Louisa. Okay, the one thing about this is the motion really needs to be to put this to committee. And since Dan is here, I'm going to recognize Dan first. Can you, is he live? Dan?
Yes. You guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Rather than send this to committee to talk about it, why don't you let me and Susan and Brandon and others take a look at the facility and see what we can do to put some other picnic tables there if we have the space to do so.
Splendid. Thank you very much, Dan.
That's the optimal way to handle it.
Brilliant. Okay, so the other thing, very quickly, last meeting, I put forth a motion which I withdrew because I thought we had a misunderstanding about between myself and a couple other council members. So I'm bringing it back. I would like to make a motion to require a weekly city manager's report. Very simple, consisting of not much more than just the city manager's schedule of appointments for the week. If he so desires, he can add a list of accomplishments and singular events, but basically just a calendar would suffice. I hope that was clear enough.
That was clear. Well, first of all, before we start before I call for a second, because this is something that staff should have the opportunity to investigate and respond, and I think council should be clear about everything and have the opportunity to investigate, as well as this may be something that the public wants to weigh in on. I would prefer that the motion be to make it an item on the agenda in the future. However, if there's a second tonight, we can go ahead and get it discussed. I will say that, making motions in council member reports is usually with the intent of getting something either into committee or on a future agenda. Motions to take action because the council has little time, as does the staff, to investigate and look at the ramifications. I think I personally have a problem with that. I would also like to point out, I can understand where you are uncomfortable with the city manager's report because you were instilled, as was Councilmember Martinelli, in January. And then we had a vacancy to fill in February. Then we got locked into COVID-19. But the policy has been that the staff has put together a PowerPoint, and we have looked at it in work study quarterly. So we have been able to ask questions and really get a good understanding of each project from each department, what's going on. And we've been able to ask questions to understand the details. That PowerPoint continues to live in our record. But on top of that, the administration report that comes weekly does give us an update of, I wouldn't say it's weekly because we don't necessarily meet every week. And under these circumstances, I also understand that we have not had the opportunity really to do something like that since you've been instilled. But we would typically meet at a minimum twice a month. And in the administration report, you would get that kind of an update. So, I mean, if there is a second, we will push it forward. If you want to just move it to a future agenda for an exploratory with all of the staff, we can change the motion to that. The call is yours, Councilmember Harris.
Well, I tried I thought that was the agreement at the last meeting, but apparently I did not have the assent of two other council members. So yeah, I would just like to, get it out of the way now. So do I,
okay, so if you want to address it now, I would ask, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have the motion made by Councilmember Harris, seconded by Councilmember Martinelli. And at this point, I will open it up for discussion. Michael Mathias has his hand up. I'm sorry. I'm trying to look at the screen and look at the wall because I can't see you all at one time. And so I'm going to, just a sec. Okay, so I have the city manager, Matthias. I have Deputy Mayor Mahoney. I have Councilmember Bangs. And, okay, just a second. Bangs. So right now I've got Matthias. Oh, and I've got Councilmember Martinelli. And then Councilmember Buxton. Okay, so I'll start with with City Manager Matthias.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. My screen froze up, so I did not hear what the disposition of that request was.
We have a second, and the desire is to discuss it tonight and dispose of the issue tonight.
Regarding preparing a weekly city manager report.
Written weekly city manager report.
Yeah, so let me go into that a little bit. We used to do those. They took between 10 and 12 hours staff time during the week. I would come in on Saturdays, spend 3 or 4 hours. As we moved, and that was recovering from bankruptcy and building our team. And as we were able to do those things, we then moved more into projects and policy implementation. Okay, and so then in order to unburden the staff from those requirements, right, we started doing the updates at the study sessions with PowerPoints by senior staff of the most significant issues they're addressing, and allowing for an interactive dialogue with the council about what those issues were. We also have used the administrative report in a manner it was never used before to update the council. And I might add that Bonnie and I looked at communication from the city manager's office to the council since January has been in the hundreds of updates, emails, and information. So I think the other thing and problem I have with this is I'm not sure what purpose it serves. And I'm not sure that Mr. Harris, there's value in providing him my schedule, my call log, my calendar, whatever, because the council, who I report to as a body, has a process to review my performance. If there are issues with that performance, it can come up at a normal performance evaluation. So I would consider this burdensome, unneeded, and something that I'd be opposed to. Thank you.
I'm trying to, the next person signed up to speak is Deputy Mayor Mahoney, and I see that Councilmember Harris is requesting to speak for. Yeah, so right now I'm going to recognize Deputy Mayor Mahoney, go to Councilmember Bangs, Martinelli, Buxton, then Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. I thought about this from the last time that JC brought the motion forward, and I was doing a little research. One of the things I found is a quote from Theodore Roosevelt, obviously our president in the past. And he said this: the best executive is one who has the sense enough to pick good people to do what he wants done, and the self-restraint enough to keep from meddling with them when they do it. I kind of thought about this. I think this is micromanagement. It's a poor use of our time for both our city manager and staff. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to Councilmember Bangs. Councilmember Bangs, you're muted at this time.
Constantly muted. What's up with that? Anyway, I think as last time I spoke up and felt that we had many opportunities one-on-one with our city manager. We also have had our study sessions. I'm sure we'll get back to that. We also have our committee meetings, which we will get back to. And in this particular time, when we've got these issues happening, I think it would be, doing the research for staff to figure out how much time it takes. Our city manager just said how much time it took. And I think it would be more wise and more productive if once we go back to whatever the normalcy is, that we can then get our reports on those regularly scheduled study sessions. And I think staff providing updates along with the city manager is extremely sufficient to me. I'm not 100% sure what a daily schedule report needs to be to a council member. I don't know of any other reason to have one. I don't want to know what his daily schedule is. I want to know that he's doing a good job, and at this particular point in time, he's doing a good job.
Thank you, Councilmember Bangs. We're moving to Councilmember Martinelli.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the reason for this is pretty clear. It's for increased transparency, which the public has been desperately calling for quite some time now. As I stated in the last meeting, I've spoken with quite a few city managers and city council members, and in other cities, in most other cities, it's very common for a weekly report to be given. And in some cities, there's even a daily report given to the council. So I think it's not just about the council knowing about what's going on, it's about the public knowing what's going on. I think that Mr. Mathis has been doing a great job, and I think that the public should see what it is that is going on, because the public, the taxpayer, is paying quite a bit of money. And I'm not saying that that money is not properly spent, but I think that they have a right as taxpayers to know what it is that money is being spent on to the absolute detail possible. And that's why I support this motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Buxton.
Thank you, Mayor. A little bit of clarification so that so I don't look like I'm flipping on this. My agreement to vote for this at the previous council meeting was not an agreement to vote for this motion, but it was an agreement to move forward on an amendment to it, which would have resulted in what we're doing right now, having this discussion. So I think weekly is too much. The motion as it stands is burdensome. And when you have someone, to Councilmember Mahoney's point, we worked hard to find this executive to run our city. And when you've got 175 employees and several senior staff and project and policy that you need to oversee, it is burdensome to get down to the detail. I don't think that's a weekly report is a reasonable request. If there were a problem or he were still on probation for some reason, you might have a different leg to stand on in this. But at this point, I disagree with that as it stands. Thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
So I don't expect to change any hearts and minds, but my colleagues are arguing something that I did not ask for. I specifically said that the sole requirement was a calendar, and the calendar is already prepared by the city manager's scheduler. So it essentially requires about zero work. It's not 10 to 12 hours. In fact, I've reviewed a bunch of the older weekly reports, and they are not only onerous, but they're just tedious. I would never read them. My purpose is simply to understand the job. I'm used to, in my management capacity, walking the factory floor and just going, oh, okay, this is how things work. That's the only purpose. And since it requires very little effort, and it would be extremely educational to me, for example, I will email Michael or Bonnie and they will reply, we're really busy, and I have no context. And I don't think any new city council member coming in would have any context, because they're not able to see how the job works. So this to me seems an almost trivial request. And that's it.
Councilmember Bangs, you've requested a second option to speak. I see your hand up. Can you bring that down and then unmute your microphone? I think you, matter of fact, you are unmuted. I just need you to lower your hand. Just click the raise hand button again.
So I don't want to beleaguer this, but I guess I keep hearing these two things: transparency and the citizens deserve true transparency. And I'm not 100% sure what that really means. I mean, I'm not going to debate it. Everything that happens in this city can be found on the website. Everything that happens in this city related to finances can be found on the website. That's totally transparent. If we have to spoon feed people, which I've said many, many times before, that's not the job of the city and it's not the job of the council. We are certainly open to discussion, but no spoon feeding. I'm not understanding that. And as far as a calendar and what your previous job was, Councilmember Harris, your previous job isn't your current job. Your current job is to trust what's going on, provide input to whatever our agenda is, whatever our plans and goals are for the future. And that involves, unfortunately, we can't do it now, but that involves us being together in a room to walk through all of the CIP and all of the other things that happen in this city as council members. So I don't see how a calendar of events for a city manager would help you with that. To understand the job, you got to read the job description because he's performing everything in the job description, as well as you can take a look at what his job performance is. And we're not going to go back and forth. I'm just saying I'm totally.
And Anthony Martinelli has, our Councilmember Martinelli has raised his hand for, this is his second and final option.
Thank you, Mayor. With all due respect, I think referring to it as spoon feeding the public is insulting. The public wants transparency. As I've mentioned on a couple occasions, there's a reason that 2 incumbents lost the election last year, and transparency was a big part of it. The things that you state can be found on the website can't always be found on the website, and a lot of time it's you have to dig for it. So I just think that it's the council just blatantly ignoring what the public wants by stating that you don't understand what the public's calling for. We want transparency. They want transparency. They want to know what we are doing. They want to know what our city manager is doing. They want to know what they are spending their taxpayer money on. And we are not succeeding in that regard. And saying that it's spoon feeding is just insulting them and is the opposite of what the public wants right now. Thank you.
I'm going to jump in at this point because I don't know how you can be more transparent than to put up a presentation with all of the heads of every department in a work study where the public can be part of the meeting, and the meeting is broadcast out across Channel 21 live streaming, where the council has an interactive opportunity to ask any question they want to. I mean, I don't care what time somebody goes to lunch. I care about the work that's getting done and the details in it and so forth. And that is part of the entire dialogue of, again, that work session that we go through we would go through quarterly. And it's also covered in the administrative report of the city manager. I cannot think of one CEO that I have ever worked with or known, either in the public or private sector, that has ever done, put their calendar in front of me, especially as a requirement, or published it on the internet. I mean, I'm sorry. I believe that I understand what's being said about wanting to be transparent and the public wanting to know, but there is an open discussion about what happens, when it happens, who's involved, and we take it by department through the entire city, and including the city manager. I do apologize that I don't believe that since you have been instilled, Councilmember Martinelli or Councilmember Harris, that you've had the good fortune of that, because we are functioning under some very different rules at this time. But I am very hopeful and optimistic that this is going to come to an end soon. And at that point, I think that both the council and the community will get much more information than they would either out of a calendar or a written report or anything else. So I will openly say that I'm definitely not in favor of this. So at this point, I'm going to ask that all those in favor of the motion, please. Yes, Councilmember Harris. I am not seeing your hand on the screen, sir, but.
Yeah, Jim, I had my hand raised there. I didn't want to be rude, but I understand which way this is going, but I just wanted to say that my job is to help create policy and provide oversight. And to the extent that I can know how people do their job, that helps me to do that. My job is not just to show up and read the agenda and evaluate things based on that piece of paper in front of me. And that's it.
I can understanding what you're saying, but I think you and I would have to agree to disagree that there is a difference between oversight and what I believe is micromanagement. But regardless, I think everyone has had the opportunity to speak. So there's a raise hand button in the lower right-hand corner. All those in favor of the motion, which is to have a weekly report, please click your raise hand button. I have Councilmember Martinelli and I have Councilmember Harris raising his hand manually. Okay, so I have 2 in favor. All those opposed, please click your raise hand button at this time.
I'm raising my hand opposed, but I don't have a raised hand button in my right-hand corner this time like last meeting.
You have to.
I don't either.
Okay, and so I'm watching for the hands. So I am going to say what I'm seeing, and if I'm incorrect, please correct me. So at this point, the hands I see, okay, so I have Councilmember Nutting saying he is opposed. I have Councilmember Deputy Mayor Mahoney opposed. Councilmember Bangs opposed. Councilmember Buxton opposed. And I am also opposed. So the motion fails 5-2, or 2-5, I'm sorry. Is that recorded? Okay. I'm going to move on to Councilmember Buxton in the councilmember comments. I do want to remind the council that board and committee reports are actually time boxed to a 4-minute window. And the introduction of motions takes us well beyond that window. So I will say that going forward, if you have a motion, the motion needs to be to get something on a future agenda. Because this has come up before, I did entertain it tonight for the wishes of Councilmember Harris. But we really need to look at motions going to committee or to getting on a future agenda, because we have a schedule to stay on and everybody needs to get the same amount of time in their regular report. So at this point, the next council member I'll go to is Councilmember Buxton.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm getting feedback from you. Maybe if you could, Mayor. Thank you. So I attended the Farmers Market Board meeting, and the Farmers Market is still moving forward to open on time, with including their protocols, early time for compromised shoppers, a drive-through procedure. They have a verbal okay from the health department. They're just waiting for their written approval from the health department to move forward. And I think then they'll do a kind of a community Facebook social media blitz, but they've got a beautiful new webpage. So if you go to the Des Moines Farmers Market, you can see their beautiful updated webpage and all the information about the market there, including if you would like to donate or support the market. And segue to a huge thank you to the city for helping with the farmers market. There have been some challenges in this climate with some of the grant procedures, and the farmers market was up against a wall on an issue, and the city stepped in. And a huge thank you, I think, from the market and the community. I think our market is a gift to our community, especially in this time. So thank you so much to the city. I also attended a Soundside Alliance meeting. Again, the Soundside Alliance is a partnership of some of, I think it's 5 South King County cities, and formed to encourage and support economic development in our cities, and which it also includes a seat with Greater Seattle Partners. And so even that, that organization is extremely limited about how we can function as well. So there wasn't too much talked about, other than they will be working on some outreach to the individual cities this year, some more training. And I was elected vice chair. So I feel that's quite a privilege for me. So I appreciate that honor. I did want to address briefly on the consent agenda, the Gateway project. I don't view this as a partnership with the Port of Seattle, but a partnership that encourages regional participation in what I believe is a cog in a global commerce machine. And that has been really historically 200 years in the making, starting with the Lewis and Clark expedition out here, the Oregon Trail, Marcus Whitman putting at Fort Hall a new route on the Oregon Trail so that this Puget Sound waters could be settled, and the Bournes, the Denny's, and the Bells, and their huge sacrifice in settling this area. All of those actions were commerce-related actions to defend and protect these waters for global commerce. This region has the greatest investment. Our valleys, our South County valleys, the infrastructure investment in logistics there is what statistically it's something like 4th in the nation, 6th in North America for size and ability to move goods and services. And so what we have going here, this Gateway project, is it's a summation of 200 years worth of commerce and planning. These waters are closer to Asian shipping and commerce than San Francisco and Los Angeles. So we've got this huge investment. Many cities in our region have this huge investment. So our city is just a small part of playing into this global commerce machine. And our participation here is small, but it's a privilege to participate in that, in my opinion. And yes, the one thing is our city has disproportionate impacts of that global commerce machine. But in my opinion, that really needs to be addressed at the federal issue. And our state has already bought in heavily into this project. And so I feel it's our duty and privilege to participate. And we already have through our MOU. And this is, I think, like our Chief Operations Officer put it, this is just the period at the end of the sentence. So I'll be voting in favor of that. So thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations, Councilmember Buxton, at your appointment to Vice President. I said congratulations when you mentioned it, but I was on mute. So
thank
anyway, the next council member to speak is Councilmember Martinelli.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things I would like to cover today. I've been contacted by quite a few constituents in recent days who have pointed out the fact that the hazard pay they've been receiving has either ended or will be ending within the next few days or to a week or two. This is despite the fact that we are obviously still in the middle of a pandemic, which means that these individuals, a lot of them who are working minimum wage, are going to have to continue working minimum wage, risking their lives. Because of this, I think that as a city, we should do something to both honor and reward these individuals. So because of this, I support and propose increasing the minimum wage in our city for essential workers as defined by the state to $14.50 an hour, which would just be a $1 an hour increase. It would put us almost $2 an hour below C-tax minimum wage for transportation and hospitality workers. They make $16.34 an hour. I support applying this only to businesses who have at least 50 employees, meaning that it would not impact small businesses. It would only impact large businesses such as Safeway, McDonald's, and Jack in the Box. I think that this is the absolute least we can do in order to tell workers that we support them and we're trying to allow them a little bit more income while risking their lives for their job. I'm not going to be making a motion today because I'm in talks with a couple of my colleagues on the council, and I'm hoping to get this on an agenda. If not, I will likely be doing a motion in the near future, but I wanted to get it out there, and I wanted to encourage the public to reach out to us and give their opinion on this, whether you support it or not. I've also been contacted by quite a few businesses who are wondering why the city has done so little to help them during this pandemic. Programs like EATS are great, but that's not even funded by the city. The EATS program is funded by King County. I also want to thank the King County Council, Councilmember Dave Upthegrove in particular, for establishing a small business fund for Des Moines around $60,000. And I think that's great, but it's another example of outside sources helping our businesses and our residents rather than we doing that. So I very much support and propose that we create a grant fund for businesses in order to distribute grants to small businesses. Once again, is being defined by having 50 or less employees. Obviously finances are going to be tight, but businesses are the backbone of our economy. They're the backbone of our city. They're the backbone of our community. And I think that we need to do everything in our power to not only allow them to stay open, but to flourish. And I've unfortunately haven't seen us do much other than using funds that have been given to us by King County or the state. I would really like to see the city step up and do more, both for businesses and for workers. And finally, I want to mention paid parking at the marina. Obviously, there are quite a few people who purchased annual parking passes. And when they purchased those passes, they were expecting to have 12 months that they could use it. The parking's been closed for at least a couple months now. So I think that we have no choice but to issue refunds to these individuals proportionate to the amount of time that they were not allowed to park down there. Once again, I'm not going to be putting forth a motion because I don't know for sure that this isn't something the staff is already thinking about, but I just want to put it out there that that's something that I think that we need to do. That's all that I have for today. Thank you.
I can't speak for sure on the, I know that staff is working on the parking issue, and I know that one thing was being considered is that parking cards are generally up for renewal in January, and so they're looking at extending the renewal period. So those participants who have a parking card would not lose out on their annual investment.
I think it would be great. I think it would be awesome if we could give people the choice whether they can just extend their parking pass into next year or be given a 2 or 3 month refund. I know that logistically that would be hard to issue that refund, but I think that's only fair because for the individuals who may not want to go into next year, I think that they deserve that option. But I do think it's great that we're at least considering ways to make this work.
Next up is Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just touch on item 2, as my colleagues, Councilmember Nutting and Buxton have done. I am in support of this as the representative of the Executive Committee of the Gateway project. I know that there's been several attempts to make this happen, and in downturns in other economic times, this particular set of projects was one of the first on the chopping block. We reiterated how important it is to continue and keep it this time rather than make us another sacrificial lamb. So I think it's important we go forward. And I could provide more details, but I'll leave it at that. I want to talk about Monday, which is Memorial Day. And as a veteran, I just want to acknowledge those veterans that had served and lost their lives in battle, as well as those veterans that came back home, lived a life after they served and are no longer with us as well. It's because of these individuals and their sacrifice that we even enjoy this discussion as many other examples. So I just want to recognize them and honor them as we do. Typically, for some people that don't understand, Memorial Day is for those that are no longer with us that we memorialize. And then on November 11th, on Veterans Day, we honor those that served. So I just want to make sure that people understand that. I'd like to talk about the virtual parade really quick. Council members, love to get your videos in. We put out a couple of informational videos on social media and so forth. If you have any questions or you need help, please contact me, but it will be important to our new virtual parade. It's a way to build community, and let me know if you have any issues. We already talked about dollars for scholars. Hang on just a second here. I'm having an issue. I'd like to compliment Michael and your staff, particularly on the financial side. Recently, the governor brought up the fact that he was making 15% cuts to staff and also freezing hiring and looking at expenses. And the thing that was comforting is I knew that since COVID-19 has come onto the forefront, you and your staff have been doing a good job to already manage that. We don't have a lot of revenue streams and sources. We don't have the car dealerships and things like that. So effective management of financial assets is very important. And I think that with that pre-planning, I think we're going to come out of this well. There's been some discussion about our financial stability, and it's because of the good conducts and principles that we've exercised that we're there. So I just want to say thank you to you and your staff. I want to remind everybody, regardless of the social, whatever phase we're in, it is important to social distance, wear your mask, and be safe and look after your neighbors. And with that, that's all I have.
Thank you. This takes us forward to my report. I attended and participated in the video advertisement encouraging involvement of businesses and community members in the 2020 virtual parade with Deputy Mayor Mahoney and the president of Destination Moines. I know a lot of people are excited about that, and I am too. It's a very innovative idea, especially in considering that our events have been canceled for the summer. I also participated in a call with City Manager Mathias and Congressman Adam Smith to discuss the pandemic, potential relief from the federal government, restarting the economy, and to communicate how the city is doing overall. The Congressman was very complimentary of our actions, our fiscal responsibility, and the use of our Joint Emergency Operations Center. So I wanted to pass that forward. We did follow up with him with written communication. I had a call with Port Commissioner Fellerman, and that was to hear about the challenges and the opportunities the port has been addressing throughout this pandemic and at both the airport and the seaport, because a lot of people do lose sight of the fact that the Port of Seattle is a seaport as well. I did participate in the AWC Mayor's call with Governor Inslee's office. We discussed many topics from restarting the economy to internet access vouchers for students that will be learning remotely. Again, I, with some other council members, attended the Dollar for Scholars and specifically had the opportunity to represent the Des Moines Stephen J. Underwood Scholarship. And the recipient this year was Miguel Estevez Osorio. There's a lot in his resume that makes him the ideal recipient here. And I was particularly pleased because Justin Kripe showed up as president of our police guild and announced that night that the guild is working to, well, this year they have agreed to match the initial $1,000 with another $1,000. So the recipient gets $2,000 towards their education. But Officer Kripe also pointed out that there is the opportunity to look at, with the council's support and the guild's support, to look at doing $2,000 scholarships in the future. So this is nothing that is cast in stone by any means. It is just an idea. I also attended the Highline Forum, and it's a 2-hour meeting, so I'm not going to go into great detail. The agenda is available, but to give you the highlights, we had a COVID-19 report where all the cities talked about the the pandemic, what it was doing to their community and things that they were doing. Port talked about its economic stimulus program. Port also talked about a noise strategy, pointing out the A320s without a retrofit. are particularly noisy, and so are 747s in terms of being noisy and inefficient, and that they are of the opinion that most of the noisy and inefficient aircraft will probably be moved towards retirement as airlines look to come back online and right-size the aircrafts with their routes going forward. They also talked about their insulation program, and I didn't get the second condominium, but one Villa Enzion, I think. They are looking to insulate in Q1 of 2021, and they did mention another one, so they are starting to look at expanding their insulation program. They talked about increasing some of their monitoring, using portable monitoring, but they noted that during this time, it hasn't really been, they've found some obstacles and it hasn't really been successful. When they look further down the road, their insulation strategy is about 7 years out to cover condominiums, apartments, places of worships, and things of the like. Was also had a chance to participate in the bi-weekly 30th District Democrats call and signed a letter of support to extend the U.S. waiver to feed hungry kids through the summer. The deadline to sign this was June 1st. So I chose to jump out and act upon it. And that will conclude my report for tonight. I am at this point going to our administration report with Michael Mathias.
Thank you, Mayor. Bonnie, I guess we'll have to do the PowerPoint. I'll just let you know. Couple of things first. Some activity in the city that's encouraging. There's a development up on Pack Highway called Point by Vintage. This is to the south and west of the Four Points Hotel. It's a mixed-use development that came in, so we're excited about that. The theater did their pour for some of their upper floors work. And if you drive the alleyway behind the theater, you can see a lot of what they've accomplished. And that's certainly exciting to see them move forward. And Wesley, that is doing a renovation across the street from City Hall. That's about a $250 million renovation, and they just came in with phase 3 for $53 million to continue their process and construction. And all of those are very exciting, and once again put Des Moines on the map for development that's not really occurring elsewhere very much. So I think we should be happy about that. And I'll talk a little bit about our building department in a minute, things that they've done to help facilitate development. The mayor mentioned the discussion with Congressman Adam Smith, and I just wanted to say, echoing the mayor, that we were gratified to hear Adam Smith describe Des Moines as a well-run city, and we appreciate that. So with that, I'm going to move to a brief update on COVID-19. Status quo remains in force. Stay home, stay healthy, the governor's dictate. He has identified, I think Bonnie could go forward. Thank you. He has identified 4 phases of a return to normalcy of some kind. And so we're in phase 1. There are counties in the state that are moving to phase 2. Each of these relaxes the standards for businesses, especially to operate, for gathering places and so forth. Government really doesn't show up until phase 3. And then phase 4 would be more or less where we were. However, it looks like social distancing is going to be with us for a long time. So the update is that the Joint Emergency Operations Center is functioning effectively. We have now gone to weekly updates. Wednesday mornings, we have the fire chief and assistant chief, incident commander, police chief. Shannon's involved, Dan's involved, a number of our staff are involved. As we update what's going on with the city, what's going on with the fire district, what's going on with the police department, and any issues that come up or that could be addressed. And it's also a great way to share information. Our finance department is going through the process of documenting our expenses associated with reimbursement from the federal government. And also, we do not know, we will know more, and we will share with council as soon as we do, that really it's going to be in early July, after second quarter closes, that we will see the impacts of COVID-19 on our revenue structure. And just an anomaly that we found out today was that retail sales tax for March actually increased. And the reason it increased was people went to the stores and stocked up on everything. So we'll have in second quarter, we'll know a truer picture of what's going on. And once again, you know, these are incident related, but we experience an ongoing challenge for our first responders. And the protocol that's worked so well with fire and with police is that typically, unless it's life-threatening, wait for fire, because they got the PPE and they're got medics and everything. But in those occasions where there's a life-threatening event, police has to enter, and that still can present complications relative to exposure. And so we have an ongoing challenge for our first responders who have done an incredible job. And I'll just tell you that in the city of Des Moines, there have been 164 infections and 2 fatalities. And our hearts go out to the families of the 2 fatalities. But compared to the national average, that's about 20% of what's going on nationally. So then moving to city organization. Thank you. City organization. So our city offices remain closed except for essential functions and essential employees in anticipation of a phased reopening of city facilities. We anticipate, and what we've done already is staggered shifts with our public works folks. So we would continue that, and we would find ways for other departments to try to minimize the amount of staff in the building at any one time. We would provide screening for all our employees that come to work, and that would involve temperature checks, masks worn in common areas, maintaining social distance, and physical meetings of no more than 5. And that's at least in phase 2, and I think in phase 3 also. So moving forward, organizational strategy. So here are some dynamics that have occurred relative to COVID and the response organizationally and strategically. Our municipal court is moving to live streaming platform, virtual engagement of participants. They're basically using TV for their proceedings, and they are no longer having physical presence in the court. It's all be done virtually. And so that's a huge step for them. Parks and Rec, we have reduction in the summer programs. We canceled Camp Chaos, summer recreation programs, investigating the possibility of virtual programming for kids at home. That might be helpful. Fall rec programs and school-related programs are uncertain. We've had discussions with the school district relative to expectations for any mutual activities in the fall. I think also the farmers market, we talk about that later, but essentially they're planning to open, and we're trying to help them to the degree we can, knowing that the final say is in the hands of the King County Public Health. Community development has taken a number of steps to try to provide virtual services, virtual inspections, pre-apps, pre-construction and review meetings happening virtually, electronic plan review, no-touch pickup payment delivery options. Building and planning services are available remotely. And we also dedicated a personnel resource toward economic recovery from that department, and that's Eric. So community development has done a number of creative things to help facilitate development, and guess what? We see development happening. So we're appreciative of their efforts in being creative. Events and facilities, next slide, is canceled events through the summer concerts, 4th of July, Waterland weekend. Private events were canceled, rescheduled, city providing full refunds of deposits and or rental fees. And also, I think just one comment, I thought Mr. Martinelli kind of understands the philosophy that we're operating under. We're giving full refunds if people had events, because this had nothing to do with any of their plans or anything like that. And to the degree that we can make people whole with paid parking, be it a refund or half a year free or however we do that, we're absolutely committed to trying to do those things, because people got stuck here. We closed the parking lots as a public health measure, not anything to do with an individual performance on any level, but people had paid already for their ticket, for their passes. So we're conscious of that and appreciate that comment. As I said, we're working with the farmers market to open consistent with public health directives. Senior Activity Center, that's been growing, 90 to 100 hot takeout lunches per day, Monday through Thursday, 400 frozen meals on wheels per month. The Eats program continues to kind of get it. People are excited about this, providing 500 meals a month. That's about $20 a meal. That provides vouchers to these restaurants, trying to plan ahead as much as possible. I think we're set up for the next number of weeks. At the same time, they're staying in touch, cards, calls, social worker availability for our seniors to keep them in the loop, even virtually or through the phone. Finally, we come to, well, yeah, there, thank you. Aligning personnel with organizational function. So what I just identified for you were a number of strategic actions that we've taken organizationally to streamline operations, to go virtual, to be efficient and effective and fair in this time. And one of the things that happens is aligning personnel with organizational function. So we've frozen vacancies. We've looked at early retirement options that several people have taken, and we don't plan to replace those positions. And then there was a federal program that came through the CARES Act, which provides standby working with the Washington State Employment Security Department. So the temporary status in which staff receive a weekly benefit. So we essentially notify staff, which we've done for the months of June and July, that they will be on unemployment. And so the state will pay for that with federal money. And at the same time, the CARES Act will provide an additional $600 a week on top of the maximum employment security payment of $790 a week, which results in a few people at least having the experience of getting paid more and not having to work. I don't know if we all aspire to that, but that's what we're able to do. It has little to no financial impact on selected staff. We maintain their health coverage, and they are not actively working for the city while on this status, but it's intended they'll resume regular duties in August of 2020. So the departments that are affected by this were the ones strategically that we identified: Parks and Rec, Marina, especially events and facilities, municipal court, police department for police support personnel. Positions were selected based on the analysis of work impacts from COVID. So it goes hand in glove with our strategy to try to maximize efficiency and reduce costs. And the anticipated savings over the 2 months is approximately $70,000 to the city. And Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you. This takes us forward to the consent calendar. Will the clerk please read our consent agenda?
Item 1, approval of vouchers. Item 2, Puget Sound Gateway Project, SR 167 and SR 509, completion projects, local funding and phasing interlocal agreement, And that concludes the consent calendar, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve this consent calendar?
So moved.
Okay, so I heard a motion by Councilmember Nutting and a second by Councilmember Bangs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Does any council member wish to remove any items?
Yes, Mayor, I would like to move item 2 to discussion.
Okay, one moment, please. Oh, I'm missing a document. Let me see. No, I have it. Item 2. Okay, you're referring to Councilmember, you're referring to the Puget Sound Gateway project, correct?
Correct, Mayor.
Okay. So with item 2 removed, all those in favor of the consent agenda as modified, which has us only voting on item 1, please, let's try this. Either click your hand or raise your hand, and I will count them from there. So all those in favor of the consent agenda, please raise your hand. Well, I know, I'll read it off. I'm sorry, logistics folks. So my hand is up. Councilmember Buxton's hand is up. For those who are physically holding your hands up, I'll call them. I have Councilmember Harris's hand is up. Councilmember Bang's hand is up. Councilmember Martinelli's hand is up. Councilmember Mahoney's hand is, I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor Mahoney's hand is up, and Councilmember Buxton is up. Yeah, Councilmember Nutting, how do you vote? I can't see, oh, I'm sorry, I can't see him on my screen. Okay, Councilmember Nutting says yay. Okay, so that passes 7-0. Okay, so at this time, I am going to go to Councilmember Harris for his discussion on item number 2, the Puget Sound Gateway project.
Colleagues, I beg your patience. I understand that this is a completely symbolic objection, and I will not make a habit of it because I do not like to waste time. But this is a bad thing for Des Moines. It will only increase traffic and enable cargo flights, and I was not elected to help the port or other surrounding cities or the region's economy or any of that jazz. I was elected to serve the interests of the people of Des Moines, and the dollars always flow somewhere else, but the environmental impacts stay here, and they will stay here basically forever. And I understand the train has left the station, so I will not tax your patience any longer, but this is an epic mistake, and I am only sorry that I am joining the council at the period at the end of the sentence. Thank you.
Councilmember Martinelli has his hand up.
Sorry, I didn't lower it after voting for the last motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So at this point, Councilmember Harris's comments are concluded. Is there a motion on item number 2?
I move to approve.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I move to approve motion number 2.
Second it.
Okay, and motion was made by Councilmember Nutting, seconded by Deputy Mayor Mahoney. Deputy Mayor Mahoney, you had your hand up at one point. Did you wish to make a comment? You're on mute.
Yeah, yes, I did. The couple things that you know, this isn't doom and gloom, and I disagree with Councilmember Harris on a couple of points. This has been a long-running project. I think well over 20 years. That's like I mentioned before, that through economic downturns has been part of the process. There's the 167 and the 509 connections. 19 different government agencies have worked together and partnered on this, and it's been unanimous everywhere. Part of it is we have 509 property that was designated to run right through our town. A lot of people forget this. This is going to free that up for greater good and greater use for the city. I think it's going to route a lot of traffic on through I-5 that is going to go around our city rather than through it. You know, the port aside and ease of the cargo and so forth, yes, they are valid points. We're close to our maximum, and there are efforts to site a second airport where I believe eventually some of the direction will go. But it's there's some through the construction costs and the taxes we'll receive on that, along with some of the benefit we'll receive from the properties on the 509 piece through the taxation, et cetera, on sales tax, et cetera. This will be a gain and not a loss. We did the MOU, and I think it's our obligation to support the ILA.
10 seconds. If there is only one thing that I can convert hearts and minds on during my tenure on the council, it would be that the airport is our concern, not the federal government, the county, or the state. We're on our own, and it is our duty to protect our citizens. Thank you.
Anyone else? I will just make a brief comment. I think Deputy Mayor Mahoney articulated the issue very well. I do believe that much of the traffic will circumvent the city because we are on historic 509. I don't think it's called historic 509. I'm hoping at some time it will be. We have had from my entire life being in the city, which has been over 50 years at this time, we've always had a massive amount of traffic coming through our downtown. And I do think, yes, there are some valid points about transportation getting potentially to the airport and so forth, but I also feel that it could help us in other ways here with the city. In reading the materials, it will also add to some of our tax revenues. I believe, is Dan still on the... Dan is very well acquainted with this, and I would like him to kind of summarize, if he would be willing. He is on the spot. I did not reach out to him ahead of time, so if you decline, that's fine. We'll just move ahead with the vote. I apologize, Dan.
Are you looking for a summary of estimated sales tax?
Well, what I'm really looking for is to help the council understand kind of, we've been on a journey with this for a while, and you know, as our chief operating officer and in your prior roles here, you've been attached, or at least, you know, involved with this all the way through. And I believe in the packet, it does recommend, there is a staff recommendation as well. And I believe that it's not only based on the MOU, but many other things. And the other thing that I think it would help the council and the public to understand is that there was an initial amount of money that as a city we were going to have to put up, and we found many ways to mitigate that through some very solid staff work. So, boy, Dan, I put you on one heck of a platform, didn't I? You don't have to go into great detail, but anything to help the full council get the same view.
Yeah, this is something that as Deputy Mayor Mahoney mentioned, we've been working on with the state and many other agencies for, at this point, in well over 2 decades. And as far as the MOU and kind of re-engaging this project, it's something that has been worked on for it took us probably 3 to 4 years to get to the MOU and looking at proportionality and responding to the legislature's call for local investment into the project. And part of that local strategy is to be able to use local funding to leverage to get federal grants to help complete these longstanding projects. And so we were identified initially as what the state called I think a tier 2 city, which was
That's correct.
we were expected to pay and contribute in the neighborhood of about $1 million. And you know, to some kind of building on some of the previous comments that council members have made, you know, we've had many acres of property in our city that has been sitting vacant for 40 years and not earning any kind of revenue for the city. So there's this historic right-of-way that runs right down the middle of the city that WashDOT had purchased or acquired many years ago. And so you know, that became part of the negotiations with WashDOT in, you know, that we've been suffering financially because of this property that hasn't been used in the city. And so we were able to negotiate our contribution down to what you see in the agreement today. There were a number of issues that we worked through with the Transportation Committee last year relative to the details of the interlocal, and we were able to negotiate those with WashDOT, including things like, you know, what happens to Marine View Drive once 509 gets completed? Is that going to continue to be a state route? Is it going to be turned over to the city? And if so, under what conditions? If they turn it back to the city, I mean, we don't want to take a state highway that's deteriorated. We would want them to, you know, pave the roads and at least turn it into something that we can take over the maintenance of. So those kinds of things we covered in the agreement and talked with them about how we could address issues like that, including what happens with the remnant property that runs through the old historic 509 and how that gets surplused so that can get put back into active use within the city. So that's a real quick summary of kind of how we got here on the interlocal agreement, and happy to answer any other questions if there are any. So.
I appreciate that, Dan. I think I've got Councilmember Nutting with a hand up. You're muted. There you go.
I don't have any questions. I just like to comment on the fact that I was on council when this came through to begin with, and we were struggling as a city to figure out how we were going to contribute our portion of getting this done. And as I said prior in my comments, that this is to help the business park, the FAA, to get people into the city and out of the city in a quicker way. And the staff has done an amazing job of negotiating down any of the costs for us to get it to a point where we can contribute to this project without going into bankruptcy. And Dan, I got to applaud you, and Michael Mathias, I got to applaud you. You guys have done a great job of getting us there. And I absolutely think this is the right thing to do.
One other thing I wanted to point out, and I know there was a question earlier in the week from some of the council members that on the funding. One of the things that we've been able to do over the last couple of years, we knew that this was going to be the amount that we would have to pay. And so we've been setting aside money in our capital budget to pay this bill when it comes due. And so I believe right now we have $450,000 already set aside for this, and we will set aside $25,000 a year over the next couple of more years. And we don't have to pay this bill until WashDOT issues notice to proceed on phase 2 of the project, which is not scheduled to occur for several years at this point. So this is a bill that'll come due likely around 2024, 2025 timeframe, unless they, for some reason, they accelerate the project, which is a possibility. I mean, they could do that, but the good news is we'll have the funding set aside to pay that bill when it comes.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you weighing in on that. And again, I apologize to you and to Michael for calling you at last minute. So with that, I'm not seeing any more hands on the screen. So currently, we have a motion made by Councilmember Nutting, seconded by Deputy Mayor Mahoney, and that's to approve the Puget Sound Gateway Program interlocal agreement between Washington State Department of Transportation and the City of Des Moines, and authorize the city manager to sign substantially in the form as submitted. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, so I've got Councilmember Nutting. I have, well, I can't see. And then I have Deputy Mayor Mahoney. Thank you. Councilmember Bangs. Councilmember Buxton. Myself. Okay, so that's 5. So please lower your hands, and all those opposed, please raise your hand at this time. Councilmember Harris votes no, and Councilmember Martinelli votes no. Okay. The motion passes 5-2. And this takes us forward to new business. We have a draft resolution, number 20-0-31, Washington Multi-City Business License and Tax Portal Agency Interlocal Agreement, file local, and we have a presentation by our Finance Director, Beth Ann Rowe. Beth Ann, we can't hear you just yet. Looks like she's unmuted. We still can't hear her.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry, I have to get the right microphone.
That's okay. That's okay. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. This is Beth Ann Rowe, Finance Director. The draft resolution before you tonight is to approve an interlocal agreement for File Local, which is a business license and B&O tax filing portal. The background is an attempt to streamline the licensing process for businesses that operate in more than one city. The legislature required all cities that issue business license partner with either Washington State's business licensing system by 2022, or an exception was if we went with File Local, we needed to do so by July 1st, 2020. Both options are one-stop licensing portals that serve multiple jurisdictions. The File Local has partners that are Seattle, Tacoma, Bellevue, Everett, Lake Forest Park, Renton. We have requested to join, as well as City of Snoqualmie. In the packet, I did a chart comparison. In comparing these two options, I'm recommending File Local, and the reasons are because it can handle both business licensing and business and occupation tax filings. Whereas if you go with BLS, it's only the business license portion. And the File Local option also provides the most local control and flexibility when we work with our businesses. Whereas if you go with at least on the business licenses, the state system, all businesses for licensing have to go through that system. We will, with File Local, request and encourage all our businesses to file through File Local. But if they choose not to, we can still receive them here at City Hall and still process them. So that gives the businesses an option. We currently, as we are processing business licenses, we're transitioning them from the Community Development Department over to Finance. And we want to do that to capture the license information and the tax compliance information together. Right now it's separate, and we feel that with this change we'll provide efficiencies in processing and also being able to analyze and work with our data much easier. So the financial impact of this decision is that there is a fee to use File Local, which is approximately $15,600. And there's a one-time setup fee of approximately $14,000. We currently contract for processing B&O taxes, and we spend about $20,000 per year. Once we transition to File Local, we will phase out this contract. So after we cover our one-time setup, we'll be saving about $5,000 a year in costs. So I recommend that the City Council enact the draft resolution 20031 and have the motion before you. That concludes my presentation, and I can answer questions if there are any.
Are there any questions? I see, I'm sorry. First of all, before we go into questions, I need a motion. Do I don't have the motion in front of me. Do I have someone willing to make that motion?
So
Motion was made by Deputy Mayor Mahoney
Second.
and seconded by Councilmember Bangs. Okay, now, let's see. Okay, so I had Councilmember Harris. I'll take first, and then I have Deputy Mayor Mahoney. And then I have Councilmember Nutting. So Councilmember Harris, you have the floor at this time.
Hi, Beth Ann. Just really quick, you know, this is probably self-evident, but so business owners will still be able to file as they have been if they're just not comfortable with the new program, correct?
That is correct.
And there won't be any kind of penalty, or, you know, there won't be anything that makes it more hoops for them to jump through with the new program if they want to continue as they have.
If they want to continue as they have, yes. We'll still have our deadlines for filing with late fees if they don't meet those deadlines, but that's something that we already have in place now. But as far as the ease of doing it, if they're uncomfortable, they can still file at City Hall or through the mail.
And there's no like additional fee to do that?
No, there is not.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
So it sounds like we basically get a return on investment in our setup charges in the back end of the third year, basically $5,000 a year. We'd be saving money past that point.
That'd be correct.
And so this process, because obviously I didn't get to do it, it sounds like it's easier for businesses. It's a one-stop shop. Would that be the perception?
Yes. Probably where some businesses may not feel that way is if they have businesses outside of the partners in File Local. If they have business, you know, they do licensing in Burien and other cities that don't participate, they'd have to go on two systems for the licensing piece.
And my third question, in reference to Councilmember Harris's comments, are there going to be efforts to encourage people to use this system, and what would those be?
We're going to do outreach, and then also we're working this month to, if you guys approve the motion, to work with changing our website to provide information. When we send out our tax filings, we will send out information on the change, and we'll do an outreach to the businesses.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all the questions I had.
Okay, Councilmember Nutting.
My first question, well, yeah, anyways. My question is, Tim George is probably going to have to answer. Being a small business owner that is licensed in several cities in Washington, would I have to recuse myself from this vote?
No, you would not.
So my comment is, as a small business owner that is registered as a small business in several cities, that this is an amazing deal. My business license renewals come in at several different months and times during the year. And this just absolutely makes it so much easier to do business in the state of Washington. And yes, I get it. It's not going to be all of the cities, but I think to streamline staff's time and other cities' time, this is absolutely an incredible thing. So thank you.
Any other hands up? Not seeing any. I had one question for Beth Ann. I just wanted to make sure it got out. So we have, essentially, because of the action of the legislature, we have to choose either file local or the other one. And when I read through the material, file local is less expensive even to the participant, the business owner, than the other option. Is that not correct?
Yes, on a transaction fee it is.
I believe it was like 25%. It was 75% less.
Yes.
Okay, so it's better for the business owner. Okay, just wanted that to come out. So with that, seeing no more discussion, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye, or click on your hand button.
Aye.
Okay, so I have Councilmember Nutting in favor, Harris in favor. I show Councilmember Buxton in favor, Mahoney in favor, Martinelli in favor, Bangs, and myself. I didn't click the hand, but I will raise my hand. Okay, so that passes 7-0. Okay, Council, that brings us to the end of our agenda tonight. Our next meeting will be June 11th, and it will be a regular City Council meeting, but I will say at this time we are unaware of what the framework will be. We will wait to hear from the governor's office as to what we are able to do moving forward, and the city clerk will be communicating out to all of you. In the meantime, I'd like to say to the public, be patient, be safe, observe social distancing, wear your masks, use your hand sanitizer, wash, all that good stuff. But please understand, everything we are doing is for the safety of you and all the participants in the city and all the residents in the city. And by participants, I mean anybody who comes here. This is a tough time for all of us, but we are doing the right things, I think, the best we can. And yes, it's an uncertain time, but the key thing is to stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you very much for tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion was made by Councilmember Nutting. I'll second it. All those in favor, please raise your right hand or put your hand up on the screen. So I have Councilmember Nutting, I have myself, Councilmember Martinelli, Councilmember Buxton, Councilmember Harris, Deputy Mayor Mahoney, and Councilmember Bangs. That passes 7-0. We are adjourned. Take care, everybody.